A craft underground out there. It's sentient.
Wow.
It is picking up on consciousnesses because that's what it's designed to do. A cricket, a snake, a human being, a cellular phone, screen memories, a giant dino beaver walks by.
The craft itself, you think, is living, or there's beings inside, or both?
There's no beings inside.
Okay.
It was just a craft that was delivered, dropped off. You feel like you're just ripped out of your simple life, and you're always trying to get back to that.
At the time, I didn't believe in anything UFO, definitely. I grew up traditionally thinking that people like that were absolutely insane.
Can you imagine what it's like having that experience yourself and not being able to tell your family or tell your community, tell your church, tell the people that are the closest to you that should have your back no matter what?
Imagine seeing another life form and not being able to talk about it.
This is happening all the time.
People that have gotten to the stage where they have accepted what these ETs have done to them to alter them to be able to communicate with them.
He can make a sound with his brain.
First you have an alien abduction, then you have an abduction at the hand of humans. Harassment, surveillance, monitoring.
There were so many people involved with this story, it just really captivated me.
You're dealing with people's emotions. You're dealing with people's lives.
I don't fit in this box that you created for me.
We are entitled to know what is going on. Has the Constitution changed? No.
Are they real? Yeah. Are they here? Yeah.
With experiencers, it's always why me? Why does this happen to me? A strong emphasis, not a weak one. And, what do I do with it? Try to figure out and uncover the truth, or try to expose the fact that this is going on in the first place. We are out there.
And, there's an experiencer, talented one, pretty much in every aerospace division out there. And they are very useful. As far back as Adolf Hitler with the Vril Society, Project Paperclip, where they, brought over well over 1,000 scientists, you know, when they came over here to work, they're saying, where's our special people? Where's our talented people? You know, I just got back from Space Wolf Research Center, went to go see my friend Heidi at the conference, and finally bumped into her. And I just wanted to give her a big hug, but I kind of walked into a room. And a lot of experiencers will tell you this. They'll be at a grocery store or a crowded place and pick up other people's emotions. It's not dry. It's not bland. It's full of emotions. So you kind of walk around and feel people, feel things. You know, I think one not too long ago was a lady. She didn't have any black eye or markings or anything like that on her, but I could tell. So I just walked up to her and I said, you know, he's going to keep hitting you. Can I please take you to the police station? And she lost it. She wept. And I was able to take her to the police station. So to kind of further those abilities, you've got to practice them just like muscles or whatever, and sharpen them up. And us experiencers are used to hiding who we are all the time. It's not acceptable in today's society, so we hide it. So if we're not useful to the government and we're not useful to our job as an experiencer, we just kind of shove that away, especially when the family shuns it or notices that you're a little bit different, but they're not sure why. You know, it's a complicated mess, but I went into the VIP room to see Heidi. And I explain it. Maybe in the future I can explain it in a better way.
Sure.
You know, a lot of people don't want to listen to boring neurology or anything like that, but when you tend to make love, you start to kiss and fondle, you start to take your normal executive function and put that in the back seat, while this sexual function takes a front seat. And it's almost like a dreamlike state, because you don't remember everything that happens, but you do obviously remember this happened, you know. And I think here's another one where your executive function takes a back seat, and another function, like your motor function, takes a front seat to be able to, you know, defend yourself. So the experiencer functions kind of the same way. You slip into this almost dreamlike state, but you are lucid. You realize you're in that moment, you know that, and you start to connect with another human being. Now with Mike, the biggest thing I felt about him, the biggest thing that was weighing on his mind, is he was thinking about quitting.
Right.
And I felt that was extremely important to tell him what I was feeling, because, you know, the answer was no, you can't quit. And
I'm just waiting for this Eric guy, whoever the hell that is. So eventually Eric comes in, pulls his chair up right into me. Like his knee is in my dick. Like straight up, right here. I start to get that. I'm very much the fight or flight thing. And I'm like, you know, like, who the fuck's this guy? Total stranger, never seen him in my life. And his face is right here. He says, I sense that you're angry about this, but I need to be this close for this to work. And then it just all went away. And they tell me something that was that same thing that they did to you in that dream. Something that they knew would shock me and make me pay attention. So about 2 weeks before this, I'd been washing dishes, and I just decided I wanted to quit all of this. I was sick of doing TV shoots and podcasts. I was exhausted, want to be home with my family. That's it. That was just a thought.
Just while you were washing
dishes. My wife's right behind me, didn't tell her anything. Very next thing he says is, we know you've been thinking about quitting lately, and we'd really prefer you not do that yet. Complete stranger.
He says, I got so close to him that my knee was in his crotch. I was really close to him in order for that to really take hold and work, but his crotch was on his leg. So just to clarify that, regards to his wife. But yeah.
So what we're saying here is Mike's hung like a horse.
Yeah, right. I'm proud of Mike, you know, proud of Mike.
So the Mike Masters, he seems very set on it being future humans.
Yeah.
And you did kind of, I guess, sort of confirm that non-verbally, but I haven't heard you, maybe I just missed it. Do you believe it was future humans, or were you kind of just, if that was going to be the easiest way for him accepting it, letting him go along with that?
I don't know if it was or not. I mean, I can't really pinpoint. The intelligence itself were multiple consciousnesses. I can say that.
Okay.
They were kind of taking turns going in there. So it was multiple. It wasn't demonic. I've heard that rumor before. Nothing like that. They are extremely polite, extremely intelligent. So, nothing's going to happen that you don't want to happen. It's a very, very polite exchange. More polite than human beings, I can tell you that right now. But does the future human hypothesis hold water? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Does it account for everything that's going on out there? Not possible.
It can't, right? Because there's just so much strangeness that would have nothing to do with
but
your humans.
The way science works, and the way I like to think as well, is put all possibilities and probabilities on the table and scoop up all the ones that don't belong and throw them in the trash bin because you're done with them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what Mike is doing is leaving that possibility open for future humans to look into, because I mean it is a great hypothesis. In no way, shape, or form can you remove it from the table, and it might account for some of the activity that's going on out there.
Yeah. Well, and I think one way or another, he's important, right? He's either brought something or is going to bring something to the table. Very important.
Yes.
That's the vibe I get.
Yes, he is. And I can almost predict that it's probably going to take a break for a while. I think a few things.
Deserved one.
I think a few things in life are going to hit him and maybe keep him busy here and there. But I think it's also going to help him kind of reconstruct, get back on his feet, and really maybe take a different angle, and make some really powerful hits in the near future. With Masters, I didn't know he was a PhD. I didn't know he was an author. He struck me as a very honest, kind, intellectual man. So I really didn't look into who he was. I was just pulled in like a tractor beam. And I look back, because usually when Heidi tells me, Eric, don't do that, I listen. But I did. I looked back at Heidi because he wanted to go out onto the balcony and finish our conversation in private, which was a good idea. So I looked back to Heidi for her to say no, and I'd been, I would have been good. But I look back and she's got one eyebrow up and she's doing this Jack Nicholson nod, like, yes. See, I didn't know at the time. She knew Mike, and I didn't know Mike. So we all three went out onto the balcony, and it was verbal for maybe the first 2 or 3 minutes. And neither one of us could really figure out exactly when it went nonverbal, but there was a huge emotional transference of information into intellect.
Wow.
Take a long time to explain how that works, but you're deciphering emotional keynotes that you could only decipher to yourself, knowing that emotion and what application that means to you, and you're transferring it from one hemisphere into another hemisphere where you can decipher that into words and meaning. And it's a lot of information at once. And Heidi kind of just came into his side, made sure he was okay, because he was in ontological shock. I've heard, stories like, I do hypnosis. I don't know how to do it. I don't want to learn how to do hypnosis because I'm, neck deep into working with experiences as there is. And I take the emotional toll. And I really don't want to get into that part. I've done hypnosis one time. I went under for about an hour and a half, and it was very traumatizing. It was.
Yeah. It's an interesting state to volunteer yourself, to open yourself, but you'd really have to kind of trust that person, right? Like,
yeah, do.
I don't know if I would just call a guy from the phone book and ask him to hypnotize me, because who knows?
Yeah, it took me, I think, about 15 coffee dates before I would ever even go into this man's office. I was scared, I didn't know what to expect, and course, I felt my head drop, everything went black, and then I picked my head back up, and I'm like, wow, it almost worked. And he looked at me and he said, "You've been under for an hour and a half." And I'm like, "What? No." You know. So he had the tape, and I listened to it. It took me over a year to listen to the whole hour, you know, whole hour, because I would get to a point where it would just be so traumatizing. You just got to hit stop and put it away for a while, you know.
Wow.
It's difficult to, you know, hear yourself say these things. And, you know, it's not, your subconscious doesn't know how to lie. So it's just telling you the facts. You know, the rest of our brain knows how to lie to ourselves and all kinds of stuff. But your subconscious is just matter of fact. And it's like a lie detector test. So when it comes out, it's just like, well, I can't run away from this now, you know. And you've got to put your foot in the pool and not know what kind of temperature it is. So yeah, it's very hard. And I've also heard people say that we were all on drugs and none of it really happened, which, God, myself, Heidi, especially Masters, none of us will ever do drugs. You know? So
right.
Life is weird enough without them, you know, for me. So.
Yeah, no, it did not sound like that to me at all. It sounded like a very real organic thing. Had you ever had anything like that happen to you before then?
Sure. Yeah. Oh,
really?
Yeah. Lots of times. Some subtle. Most of it pretty subtle. Some of them extremely strong. The one with Masters was actually the first one that made national news. But
right.
Yeah, it's part of life. You know, I actually, and experiencers are so prevalent that you can't go to a busy grocery store or a movie theater without being in the same room with an experiencer. You just don't notice it. You know, I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
Usually I try to get up early in the morning. I go to the local gas station. I'll mix up a nice cup of coffee and hang out with some old timers, you know, swap jokes or whatever. And I'm making coffee one morning. Well, I go in to make coffee and this black SUV is just sitting there. And I can feel conscious attention towards me intently, but the sunlight coming up and hitting the windshield, it was just a glare, so I couldn't see who it was that was really putting that much intent on me. And it was a little bit weird, but I went in, made a cup of coffee. I'm talking to the lady next to me. She said that they're visiting town from Texas, and they went out drinking all night. They had a great time. And we're just, you know, making a cup of coffee, having a conversation. She goes, "Yeah, my friend out there in the black SUV, she's still drunk," you know. And we giggled about it. But I came out, got my cup of coffee, going to light a cigarette because that's what goes with a cup of coffee.
Sure, yeah.
You know, me in the morning. But this lady, drunk lady, leans out of the window and says, "Hey, come here." You know, so, you know, I come over. She said, "Grab my hand." And I've never met this woman in my life. She lives in a different state. She's half drunk, which we've learned, you know, in experiencer studies that if you get drunk the night before, and I don't, you know, I don't condone drinking. I don't, you know, want to push that on anybody. I'm just saying, if you numb the motor function with alcohol the night before, the next morning, that motor function tries to regain control. So it puts it in hyperdrive, you know, so, and that's where she was at. And I could tell she was an experiencer right away. So I grabbed her hand and held it there. And she started telling me about my mother, mentioned my mother's name, the family dog's name, my father's name, my ex-girlfriend's name, past relationships. She was just not one of those crystal ball people. She was matter of fact on everything. And she wanted to lead up to tell me something very important. So here's someone else doing it to me. And it's a stranger. But she felt the same way I did with Masters, that, you know, there needed to be a connection, and she needed to dive into me and find out something that she could give, like a gift, you know, and that's all it is. It's all it is. It's a gift from the heart. The main platform of the experiencer brain, the medical quintessential experiencer brain, is always empathy. So if you find a narcissist running around saying, I'm an experiencer. No, sir. No.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of those going around right now.
Oh yeah,
probably holding a space right now as we speak.
But I've been experiencers 24/7 for 13 years straight. I live, eat, breathe. I talked to a lot of PhDs in all different types of categories: psychology, sociology, philosophy, neurology, the whole gambit. So when I get a screen call, it takes me about 5 minutes now. And anything you do phonetically, you're going to get good at it eventually. And most support groups, and I hate to say this, but it's an observation that I've had, is support groups want to talk about what happened externally. What did the being look like? What did the craft look like? Those are all external things. That's not a support group. That's a campfire, right?
Okay. Story.
Yeah, support really comes from how you're feeling inside. How did it change you? How are you dealing with daily life? That's the kind of support that needs to be out there instead of storytelling, which is, it's difficult to do, and I'm proud of people that can open up and talk, but really the inner experiencer really needs to be worked on. And it's so rare that I've gotten a big reputation all over the world without even having a website. So support groups run across someone. I don't advertise, but my phone never stops, So
I can imagine, like, people must constantly reach out to you trying to get a grasp on this thing. Right? What are some, like, just in general, some tips that you give out that might help somebody right now watching this that is going through that?
It really depends where they're at. It is a process, kind of like the death process. At first, you can't believe it. I just saw him yesterday. He looked healthy. So there's that initial shock. And then, it goes completely into obsession. I have to learn everything about this. And I call that the mashed potato mountain syndrome, because what they have to do is they ignore their spouse, their kids. They kind of slack on work a little bit, and they don't realize that their entire attention span is going to try to figure all this stuff out, which that's the very first initial face in the sand for every experiencer is, how do I refocus my life, fix my marriage, pay more attention to my kids. And in the very beginning, it's a little difficult, but once you kind of just be an ear for someone like that and allow them to express whatever they're feeling, it starts to come out, and once it starts to come out, they finally told someone for the first time. It's the biggest medicine that they could ever imagine. They're better off in their marriage after that. The very next day, they're playing with their kids. They're a better employee at work because they got all that weight off their shoulder. And finally, someone is telling them that they're not crazy,
Yes.
And mental illness does make up maybe 2%. You'd think there'd be like a bigger amount, maybe 50%.
Yeah.
But it's really not. It's really not. These people are trying to convince themselves that they're crazy so they can have a normal life after that,
Yeah. 2% sounds low, when you think about it. So that's pretty shocking.
Yeah. But the number one mental illness that tries to attach themselves to the subject is borderline personality disorder, which could destroy, one person could destroy an entire support group overnight. That's how dangerous they are. So 2% doesn't sound like much, but it's very powerful. You get a lot of timid people in a space. They're like scared deer. They're not even ready to talk yet. They're not ready to converse yet. They're just kind of paying attention to what's going on in the virtual support group.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a wrecking ball comes through and everybody scatters. Everybody's gone. And it's like, man, I just had 500 people put together having conversations, and then this guy comes in, just destroys it all, and tries to start a YouTube channel with it. How sick do you have to be? But it does happen, and and you take it personally at first. It hurts at first, but over time you just kind of learn the beast that you're dealing with, and try to learn how to slay it from every direction. And so I get run over a lot, but they're lessons. Every one of them's lessons along the way.
Yeah, even the failures, right? Like, you know, even the, and you will have many, but even the failures that you have, you will take something away from it that will help you next time. To 2013, in Arkansas, the craft appears near your home. What were you doing in the minutes before everything changed for you?
I was sleeping. I woke up I was standing outside of my own front door, and I'm looking around like, what in the world? You know, thought maybe I sleptwalked. I still don't know how I got outside, but my left shoulder was facing my front door. My right shoulder was facing the dead end of the street. And I see like an orange glow at the corner of my eye. So I turned to look, and here's this 40-foot diameter orange sphere. It's huge, and it's just hovering off the street, just above the street. And, you know, it didn't move or bob or weave, but it rippled like the sun. And it was so bright that it should have lit up the whole neighborhood, but it didn't light up anything around it, not even the street below it, the wet street below it. It should have had a shine or something. So it's like someone turning off the bedroom light. The light bulb stays on, but the whole room goes dark. It just doesn't make sense looking at it. So I remember my eyebrows just squeezing together really hard, like, what the hell is that? You know, and I stared at it for, about 20 minutes. Went inside, left the door open, made a pot of coffee, turned on the news to see if there was any kind of like strange weather phenomenon, ball lightning. You know, I was just so desperate to find out what this was. I actually thought maybe I could see something on the news, but it was about 4:30 in the morning, and I left the door open, got my coffee, and I kept leaning on my couch over where I can look out my front door and look at this thing, and it was just there. So I figured it's an optical illusion. It's a really good one, and I'll be able to walk outside when the sun comes up and make myself laugh, you know, find out what the optical illusion was.
Right.
By the time the sun was up, it was gone, you know. So, but fast forward to later on that night, we did a Pixar film with the kids, homework, tucked everybody in, went outside for a smoke, and I was kind of pacing the one-story apartment, just kind of looking in that area, thinking, what was that? You know, it was in my head all day thinking about it. Like, it was just bothered the hell out of me. You know, it was quite a thing. So I'm looking in that area, and all of a sudden, I see a tiny orange light, and it slowly turns on like that till it gets to about 40 feet diameter, and then slowly dims out, and nothing but blackness. And it starts moving about 2 miles an hour, going slowly on and slowly back off. And it's so ominous because it was like, you know, on and off, slow stalking, you know.
Yeah.
Something that
really catching your attention.
Yeah, it's like something you see in the wild while a predator is kind of, you know, catching your attention and slowly doing a circle around you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it took quite a while to watch this thing, but I ended up turning my whole body because it had gone over the top of my one-story apartment and followed the roof line and ended up right 12, 15 feet in front of my face. And I'm just standing there. My legs locked up like a goat.
Mine would too.
I just couldn't. It was so close. It was just so close to me. And I felt like a, hum on my chest, but I couldn't hear any sound. And I wanted to run, but my legs would not move. I thought I was done for, being that close to it. It was just, your brain doesn't know how to believe what's going on, Right. It flashed twice really fast and then shot like a bullet off to my right over a cattle field. It was gone immediately and there was no sound. I kind of braced myself a little bit because I knew the sonic boom was going to rip my body apart. I'm done for it. Even the air displacement is going to take me for a ride. And nothing happened. It was just, it was like it was never there. It did not make any sense to me. And I literally duck walked into my apartment.
Right.
I'm glad I didn't pee myself, for Christ's sake.
Oh my God.
I immediately grabbed my daughter's laptop. I'm terrible with electronics. I still am, but I spent the majority of the night just Googling, trying to figure out what this thing was. And first I was looking at ball lightning, which wasn't even close. So what this thing was, it was way too intelligent. It just the way,
like, Mick West, help me.
Yeah, right.
Tell me this is a satellite.
So the first time in my life, I'm literally Googling stuff, and like Area 51 is popping up, and all these conspiracy theories and and abductions, and I'm like, this is garbage. I can't, I want to find the truth. What is this thing? But I was looking at the truth. I couldn't swallow it. I mean, I didn't believe in any of that stuff. Growing up, if someone came up to me and mentioned Area 51 and UFOs, I'd get that half-cracked smile that we all do, like,
sure,
yeah. And I would just kind of get away from them because that's crazy talk. And
well, that leads me to my next question. Like, before 2013, what was Eric about? Like, what were you doing on the weekends? What were you into? Were you a sports fisher guy? Were you a researcher guy? I mean, what was life before all this?
I was slow. Gosh, raising kids, I pretty much worked all the time.
Yes.
Spent most of my free time with kids. I love to fish or go out with my friends and have a beer, when I could. Very, very simple Southern life, view of around 110, which is pretty low, and deep Southern accent. I spoke very slow, and I didn't research anything. I wasn't really smart enough to.
Or didn't care to.
Yeah, I didn't care. Yeah. Simple life, just very simple. Around here, that's just how it is, and
sure.
I still always come back home and enjoy the simplicity and the honesty of Southern people, the hospitality, the realness in people.
Yeah.
If you go into a bar at 8 o'clock in the morning, and hear old Earl talk about seeing a Sasquatch while he's out hunting, you better believe it. He's in church every Sunday. And you're just raised not to lie about things, or
I love it.
You put a bullet in your butt, so but it's just it is a way of life around here, and just very simple. So I did undergo severe savant syndrome.
But savant syndrome is the UFO of neuroscience. These rare, extraordinary persons fly across the sky of consciousness intermittently, hinting at dormant potential within us all. A gentleman running a futon store in northwest state of Washington gets mugged and has a traumatic brain injury. When he wakes up, he sees these images in front of him.
Jason is believed to be one of the only people in the world who can draw mathematically accurate fractals by hand.
When you graph an equation and it makes a certain shape, you can see those shapes, in reality, and they're everywhere. Right, ever since I was attacked in a robbery and had a brain injury, and ever since then, when things move, they have this jitteriness to it, and that jitteriness makes everything look like it's attached to a three-dimensional grid structure. The best way I can think of describe it is hitting pause repeatedly on your TV and see it frame by frame with like a line connecting the frames, but in real time. This is just showing the jaggedness, the smoothness of everything is gone now. Because of these little picture frames and the line in between them, there is no curve anymore. So everything has this slightly pixelated and straight lines around all the edges of it. So curves are gone completely.
So when you look at my face, you also see jagged lines.
Everything is that way, and especially when bright light hits it and when there's motion. The motion really makes it stand out, or light bouncing off of water will literally draw a grid for you and do a lot of other amazing things too.
So you see things none of the rest of us see. You've not met anyone else who has had this change of awareness after a brain injury?
Never.
There are not many people who at least are public about it.
Right.
I'd like to introduce you to Derek. If if you don't mind. So at least have it happen on our stage for the first time.
Right.
So Derek, come on over.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
Pleasure. I've never met another.
Me either.
choir
Yeah.
savant, so.
I've had all sorts of questions that I've wondered about.
I have lots of questions for you.
Yeah, like I get migraines that are all encompassing. Like they'll knock me down for days at a time, and I was curious if that happens to you.
I go through all that. I go through. Yeah, we probably need more time. So.
Which, I didn't have any insurance at the time. And
tell us about that. What was that like?
Gosh, I wish I could articulate it. It's it's almost like I'm a smoker, so I can explain it that way. It's almost like you're out of cigarettes. You don't know what cigarettes are, but you have to have it. So,
oh boy,
my brain was kind of just freaked out that I just needed to fill it. It felt so empty.
Okay.
Reading books, watching YouTube videos, and it wasn't on UFOs. I was looking at nature, quantum
just
physics.
Anything. You're like Johnny Five in Short Circuit. Input.
It was, yeah. The ladies at the library were just like, "Oh my God," like here's a dumb redneck that would check out a book on fart jokes, right? And all of a sudden, I'm like, y'all got anything on quantum physics? I really need some quantum stuff,
Right.
I couldn't spell quantum at the time, but yeah. And these ladies slowly watched me within 6 weeks go from being extremely slow to rapid speaking and stuff like that. So, and my friends as well. They're just like, you talk so fast, I can't understand the big words, and I'm like, no, you're talking slower. you're doing it.
Was there a cost to some of your friendships? Do you feel like maybe you lost some friendships because of that?
A lot of people in town were saying I was calling the devil down from the sky.
Okay, that almost sounds like what Blood So described.
The first experiencer I talked to, my lead investigator worked with him. He said, I want you to talk to this guy. Have you ever heard of Chris Bledsoe? He was literally the first experiencer I talked to. We talked for a couple of hours, and he remembers what it was like in the very beginning, how shaken, all that stuff. So he was very insightful about, what was going on with me. He recognized it. I was kind of blown away because Chris knew exactly what I was going through in the initial experiences. So nobody else talked like that. So it was really healing for me. And it was just a part of why I do what I do now, because there's no real help out there. Divorces, really good professionals in the field of what they're doing, and they get fired or laid off or shunned from their job because something's wrong with them. I was going through a lot, and there was no one to help. But thankfully, my lead investigator, Barry Gaunt, he was the state director of MUFON, and I almost said Tennessee, Kentucky. Angelia Shear, she was state director of Tennessee. We had Cindy Bailey Dove in Arkansas. We had 19 people from a group called Night Stalkers, which are really good investigators. They all work together. And so I had a whole crew, but the only person that really knew how to deal with me personally was Barry Gaunt. We call him Bear. Big guy. Huge heart, wonderful, amazing human being. My whole town hated me. We had cars lined up and down the streets at night, beer cans everywhere, cigarette butts everywhere.
Man, what a nightmare.
Everybody coming to see the object. And once they did see the object, they would run off into town and tell everybody that I was dealing with the devil. We're in the Bible Belt. Yeah, we're in the Bible Belt. So,
yeah,
and that was back then. Things are changing where I could walk into a bar now to grab a beer, and some old redneck could be like, I know who you are. I seen the ancient aliens on television. Let me buy you a beer. I got some questions. So it's really different now. Before he would offer a fist fight. But
right.
I've got
no worshiping the devil here.
So it's really changed. Even in my town, it's gotten a lot better. So.
That's good, man. And I'm sorry to hear that it went that far. Like you come forward to share your experience, and that gets validated to a degree, but also like people don't understand, like you're a person going through this. And you know,
yeah,
you're not like walking on water. You're like trying to figure it out like anyone else would, you know?
Yeah. Well, parts of my case started leaking into ufology. So I would get calls from people I've never heard of before, you know,
right.
You know, Peter Robbins, Stanton T. Freeman, people that were involved in the Travis Walton case. I didn't know who Travis was. I didn't see the movie, wasn't into sci-fi, you know? So I'm like, who are these people? What's going on? And before you know it, they've got me on stage, you know, prancing me around. And
yeah, you said you did how many conferences?
I think 26 public talks.
Good Lord.
All of them completely gone. Like you'll completely off the internet. I've done over 400 interviews, you know, so those are most gone as well. So somebody spent a lot of time on Google and stuff like that, getting rid of that, which actually was a favor, you know, it gave me a break.
Sure. That's one way. I mean, the other way is like, what the hell is going on? I mean,
right. So, you know, the whole popularity ufology thing, I felt like a circus freak, a byproduct, you know. I started to learn it's all about clicks and likes, and you know, I wiped the tears off my children's face. They grew up in a MUFON investigation.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to treat this like a circus, you know. So I wanted it to be in academia, and I'm so frustrated. I'm like, why isn't it in academia? And at the time, I was working with a guy that was going through hell. And he was a tax lawyer, tax attorney in Miami, I think. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but it was in Florida. And his name was Ray Hernandez. And he called every ufologist. He's like, nobody can help me. And I'm freaking out, you know. And I'm like, we got all day, buddy. Let's do this. You know?
That's awesome, man.
We became friends, and he's a brilliant man, PhD, Berkeley candidate, which is hard to pull off just that, you know. And he, you know, I think he probably would have had several PhDs by now, but he is a mover and a shaker, you know, and that's one thing I love about him.
He's getting stuff done.
Yeah,
Not writing papers.
So him, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, he was the sixth man on the moon, Apollo 14, I believe.
Right.
And, so all three of us get on the phone one night and we're talking about it. And Tuesday nights we would just sit on the phone and you know, have a beer. I think Edgar would have a scotch. He makes a little more than the rest of us, you know, being an astronaut and all. But we got into a bit of a buzz, and then talking about why isn't this in academia, right? I mean, it should have been 80 years ago. So we kind of just talked back and forth. And the next morning, all three of us woke up, we're sober, and we're like, actually, it makes sense. You know, now that we're sober, it actually makes sense. Let's do this. So Ray's all over it. He's like, I can come up with 20 PhDs if you can come up with 10,000 experiencers. How the hell you expect me to come up with 10,000 real experiencers?
Right. Vetted.
It would take an army. But, you know, I've already worked with, you know, several hundred. I knew what I was doing. I know how timid experiencers are. So if I put out an ad, nobody would answer but the false people, you know. So I kind of devised a way for me to do my job because they were doing theirs. And Edgar and Ray were all over it. I'm like, wow, you just came up with another PhD. Oh my gosh, you have another one. And, you know, I felt like I was running behind. But eventually, with lack of sleep, lack of eating, I finally, you know, reached the 10, close enough to 10,000 people to, you know, get in and do the survey. I did disagree with some of the questions. They could have been worded more geared toward the experiencer mind. Right. But sometimes you just got to let an argument go and allow it to happen.
Pick your battles,
Yeah, pick your battles. That's so true. So true. And so we were able to pull it off. They wrote a 980-page book on, you know, the results, and it was the world's first academic study into experiencers. Well, I got a bit of a endorphin high from this, you know, and I'm like, well, I'm going to reach out to every PhD I can. And I've been doing that for 13 years. It's like chasing the pretty girl that doesn't want you. you know, and you just keep going at it until they finally say yes. So yeah,
Persistence.
a lot of people slammed the phone down on me, but you know, now they're calling back, you know, so it was worth the effort. And there's PhDs in many, many universities that, you know, I speak to on a basis when they have questions or if they're trying to work on things. So there's a lot of things in the shadows that's not out yet within academia. And real disclosure is going to have to come from science, you know, not just some crooked politician behind a podium, but true facts. You can't just say aliens are real or NHI is real and then walk away from a podium. There's a lot of questions there. So science can perform how they perform and, you know, come up with answers and not just an announcement, because people aren't just going to swallow an announcement all the way. You know, they're going to need some answers. So I think for me, that's the way to go. But, you know, if you break it all down, disclosure is a single person like me, like you, that you discover that this might be real or it definitely is, and you don't have time to be a believer, you know, like me. And, you know, disclosure is a personal thing. Disclosure is one person at a time going through that worldview change and readjusting how they see the world. And that's the real impact, you know, over time. You know, I mentioned that to Travis Walton once. He said, wait a minute, say that again? He was intrigued. And
it's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it is so true. Because
you were on a podcast and you had mentioned the antenna. And some listeners of that podcast even refer to you as the antenna. So what does it mean to you personally, the antenna?
Oh, my God. You know, for a small podcaster, you're good at this.
Thanks, man.
I think it wasn't just Stanford, but there's been other studies that I've been able or privy to look into that the public really hasn't been able to fully look at or grasp yet. But basically, the experiencer follows family lines. It's a sleeping gene. It's a random nucleotide polymorphism within your epigenetic DNA. So it's your sleeping DNA.
And I know what that means.
It's a sleeping DNA.
I get the genetic thing.
Yeah, and it kind of wakes up when it wants to within a particular person. Now, it could be early childhood trauma. That would make a lot of sense, because once this DNA strand wakes up, it feeds into the motor function of the brain.
Okay.
And I'm doing a good job right now, because my lead investigator, he says, he always tells me, Eric, you need to third grade that stuff, because
you do, because you're talking to a third grader right here.
so basically that, you know, it seems like most have it at birth, which is great because they can grow up and learn to adjust. But, you know, there are a big percentage where it happens midlife or during teenage years. I mean, there's so many different, you know, age groups it can fall into, but usually trauma seems to jolt it a little bit, you know, bad, nasty divorce or something like that. But what it does is it only feeds the motor function of the brain. So it doesn't affect anywhere else in the body. So once it starts going, it doesn't turn off. So your motor function, you know, 20, 50,000 neurons, that's all you need not to fall off your bike or stub your toe, just basic motor function. But with us, it starts pumping juice, and it starts to create a large amount of hyperclusters of neurons, all packed in a very, very dense area. So studies from the past, when you go under an MRI, it looks just like white brain dead matter. You know, it looks like a lesion on the brain. Sometimes those are harmful, sometimes they're not. You know, sometimes it's just fine. But it could be signs of early, you know, cerebral palsy or something like that. But now with the new Tesla machines, Contrast 4, you can isolate the caudiputamen basal ganglia, motor function, zoom in, and what you're seeing is not dead white matter anymore, but you're looking at 100 billion neurons within something that big.
Whoa.
Size of a dime. So your entire brain comprised of 100 billion neurons, but now you have 100 billion neurons within that area. And one of the biggest things they noticed is they're able to retrieve information outside of themselves, and send information outside of themselves. So you do an MRI, you put a red ball in a cardboard box and say, while you're in the MRI, I want you to feel what's in this box and then tell me what it is. So then you get to see the antenna fire off toward the box, retrieve the information, it lights back up, and it's a red ball that's in there. So that's why they call it the antenna. And the other nickname it's gotten, I think, from the weird desk or the phenomenology desk, which is basically DOD that DOD doesn't know about. They call that the brain within the brain. You know,
right?
Its function is that of an entire brain by itself. So who knows what we're capable of, right? There's going to be a lot of unfamiliar faces in the future from Harvard come out and tell
good.
They just want to have solid facts, backed up by more solid facts.
Yep.
They're basically, it's like building a case in court. They've got to have it solid before they step off that ledge, because it's career suicide. You know, Harvard's got a great reputation, so you don't want to harm the reputation of your school. There's a lot of difficulties.
And you have seen that firsthand. You have seen, like, talking about your Soul Foundation experience.
Yeah.
You go there and you have potential evidence that these scientists could extrapolate right there, and nobody's really interested. What
I did. I went there.
Yeah, but tell the audience, what was that like? Yeah.
Not to get into a long story, you can see it on my YouTube anyway. But no, I got with, what was that? Late 2013, early 2014. I was talking to a guy by the name of Dr. Roger Lear. He was a podiatrist, surgeon, and he had removed implants from 17 different patients. All of them were exotic, big time exotic. And talking to him, I met with Dr. Steve Colburn, PhD, brilliant man. And so they wanted to go ahead and scan me, check me out. They banged at least 3 implants on my body. A couple of other places were questionable, but they needed, more equipment to affirm that. They decided they wanted the one in the back of my neck, and we were going to talk about surgery. I met patient 9, Timothy Colon, and some of the other patients, and I became, because Dr. Roger Lear, he knew the social circle. If you just get in with these guys, they've done it before, let them explain how it feels. Does it hurt? Do you feel violated? So it's almost a brotherhood that we had, and they were very warm and welcoming. And I agreed to do the surgery at Dolores Cannon's conference, and that was about 3 hours north of where I live now. And 2 weeks before the conference, Dr. Roger Lear passed away. So, and I'm telling this long backstory just to let you know how I met Dr. Steve.
Yeah.
He was going to the Soul Conference, and so he decided to drive up from LA, hang out with us in the hotel. And of course, about 50 experiencers show up to the hotel, and I'm like, guys, this is not a party. But we had several people up in the room, and Dr. Steve Colburn is scanning everybody with his equipment. And then it was time to put on the UV black light. So you dim the lights, check the skin. And what you're looking for is a cobalt blue type of dye, or you're looking for a green type of dye that's in your skin that can only be seen under a black light. And this is usually left over during an occurrence you're not going to remember. But anyway, he checked my legs. My implants went off 1.6 gigahertz, I think. I'll have to check with him to make sure of the frequency, that one. But I still have the same implants. One in my knee that we killed back in 2013 with a 100-pound neodymium magnet. And it was just an experiment But we found out with a 100-pound neodymium magnet, these metals are non-magnetic, but with the way they're built or made or however they're fashioned, you can create an eddy effect, electromagnetic bubble.
Okay.
Using that magnet on your knee or wherever it's located. He pulls out the UV, goes up my legs, arms, chest, absolutely nothing. Thank God. And because the first time he did it, I had 3 long fingers and a thumb holding my chest like that. And it was very long fingers. And that freaked me out. Holding up, looking down, and I'm seeing a handprint. Nobody could have put that there to fool me. It's real, you know? So he gets to my face, and everybody in the room, it wasn't completely black. I can see everyone's face, and they're all like, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, "What? Do I have a spot? Is there a spot?" You know? They're like, "What are you looking at? Somebody take a picture. I have to see it now." You know? Well, what are you seeing? And from a straight line all the way down my face, caking my ears, chin, all the way down into my neck, solid blue. It wasn't patchy blue. It was completely solid blue. And Dr. Colburn leans back and he said, "Eric, I've never seen that much dye on one human being." He was like, so the next day I get up with a friend of mine at University of Ohio and Heidi to go to the conference with imperial, just evidence, all you need to do is take a substrate sample and find out what this stuff is, and
right.
At the Soul Conference, they were trying to figure out if UFOs were real, and I'm like, Dr. Gary Nolan, he's on stage. He's been dealing with the CIA for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Got the inside knowledge. Why do a speech whether UFOs are real or not? You're way past that. So it's more political than really trying to inform the public about findings and stuff like that. So it really disgusted me. Grant Cameron's #1 assistant, Nicole Sackage, she was running around, grabbing PhDs saying, "You've got to take a sample. This guy's got, the stuff," but nobody wanted to be, the first to come up with that. So
that's incredible to me. You'd think in that field they would have been clamoring.
No, they don't want evidence. They don't want evidence.
Yeah.
Political sphere, so it's almost become ufology itself,
Yeah.
That's kind of heartbreaking because I had a lot of belief that Stanford would really be, the institution that would really crack this. But at this point, I believe Harvard is going to win the long game on this one. If Japan doesn't beat the pants off of everybody, because those guys, the government is deep into it. There's a lot of PhDs in Japan that are all over the subject. They are open to experiencers, so that's going to slingshot them way past America, and very well could be, because I've got a lot of friends over there, and I know what they're talking about. So they very well could be the first on the planet to admit the truth. Even Jack Serfati pulls me off to the side, puts me in front of Arrow, and says, "You guys don't believe in experiencers? What the hell do you think this is?" And I mean, he's going off on it. He was like, "Eric has done this, Eric has done that." Where the hell did Eric get the education to do all the things that he's capable of doing right now?
Right.
Because I have no education, none. So, God, I actually like Jack. Just met him that one time.
He's a character.
He's just
for sure.
He's just older, and he's so fed up, and he doesn't want to waste a second of his time with BS.
At the Soul Foundation, once like the cameras go down and the mics come off, was it any different? I mean, were they a little more receptive, or was it just kind of the same attitude?
A little bit more receptive off camera, which, there are those that have been, retired from the CIA that still try to sway things. And I kind of backed away from emailing Gary back in 2013 when I noticed certain people coming into his office, and certain names, especially Dr. Christopher Green. He was involved in the phenomenology desk, involved in the cover-up. He knows more about experiencers than pretty much anybody in the world. And who is he reporting that to? Because he's not telling the American public.
Of the scientific studies that were done, what would you say were some of the biggest things you learned about yourself?
About myself?
Yeah.
Oof, man, it's a tough question. The best thing I've learned, and the most explosive thing for me, is all this woo-woo stuff. Not huge things, but, just little things throughout the day. Noticing synchronicities that no one else seems to pick up on. You try to point it out, and they still can't pick up onto that.
Right.
I'll break it down this way. We'll put the experiencer brain into four categories. The first one is the baseline, and that's empathy all the way. You can feel other people's feelings. If someone's trying to hide a feeling from you, you know what it is,
Yeah.
All over it. And the second box, as your brain is filling up, your second box is going to be intuitive ability. Now you're picking up on intuitive things all the time and empathic things. So these things can now work together. It's a hell of a package, to have that.
Right.
And the third step is going to be synchronicities and coincidence. You're going to notice synchronicities and coincidences almost all the time. Be non-locality. You're being able to control your dreams now. You can come out of body. Maybe sometimes, maybe half the time, maybe all the time. Remote viewing. A lot of things go in these four boxes, but that's the most basic way you can explain. Because once you reach physical capacity of that tiny spot, it's still pumping. It's still trying to reach out. So how it reaches out is through empathy, intuitive ability, synchronicity and commonalities, and then, non-locality. So that's how it reaches out. It's still, that DNA never stops pumping the juice. So the brain finds ways to reach out, and that's how it does it. And, there's a lot of scientists that think remote viewing is a primitive thing that we've had in the past.
Looking back before all this happened, what was, or was there some belief or reality that you had to kind of let go of to stay sane?
Oof. Oh my gosh. All of it.
Yeah.
All of it. My worldview had to be completely reconstructed on the basis that we're not alone and we're being engaged by a higher intelligence. So what part of my ego is going to hang around and accept that? None of it. Absolutely none of it. You call it the United States of America. Look at all those lines. That is clearly the divided states of America. Accent, predominant religions, belief systems,
even laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So everything you look at is reconstruction. It's reconfigured. It's all brand new. You have to be able to look at reality, knowing that reality was never what you've been taught, and you've got to face that alone. Now, do you BS yourself and try to go back under that rock, or do you face it, and learn to look at the world in a different light? And I kind of, I do. I get along. I play the game.
Yeah.
I live an everyday life. I don't voice it out, but I sure as hell observe it all the time.
Yeah. How do you stay grounded in the day-to-day stuff, knowing there's just this whole other world kind of operating?
Daily practice. And I always wait for an opportunity for someone to say something profound. So I get excited about that, so I can jump into that conversation. We put so much of our time and energy into things that don't matter. And, it looks like we're purposely being distracted and taxed at the same time. And so, once you kind of pull the veil off of this fraudulent society, you can't really put your head back in the box.
Going to your nearly 30 conferences, what was that kind of circuit like?
Painful, grueling, some of the most pain I've ever known in my life, but it's turned my life into something very fascinating. half the time I don't believe my own life. You know, I get up in the morning, I put my toes in the carpet, and I'm like, I don't even believe half of what goes on with me. But
yeah,
it's incredible. I mean, to become friends with an astronaut, you know, to be friends with physicists, you know, to travel as much as I do.
So there was stuff that went down at Space Wolf Lodge, or Space Wolf. I don't want to talk about the drama, but what about the stuff you saw out there? What was happening out there? And for those who don't know, Space Wolf was basically, it's out there. I don't think it's not technically part of Skinwalker, but like right next door, basically the same property essentially. Isn't that right?
It is the same property. It was just parceled off. I think.
Yeah.
I think the original Skinwalker Ranch was over 600 acres, and I think it's down to 544, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
First time, but you can, if you're sensitive, you can feel this property at least an hour away. You can feel the change. You can feel something's going on. And I just got back from going there the second time. The first time I went, my buddy Eric asked me to come out, and he didn't want to tell me anything about the property, just to observe and report to him and the property owner what I pick up personally.
And kind of objective study, basically.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Blind study. Don't tell Eric anything. Just let him out of the car and see what he does.
Right.
And, a lot of people get a kick out of that kind of thing. So I got out of the car, and the first thing I noticed, I felt a very strong electromagnetic field alongside some type of particle substance that I wasn't familiar with at all, which was very confusing. So I pointed at a 35-degree angle, and I said, "What the hell is that?" I didn't see it, but I felt it.
You just knew it was there.
Yeah, a scientist came out of the tent, and he's looking where I just pointed, and he said, "Well, how the hell did he know that?" My friend Eric, he's like, well, "He's Eric Mitchell. Just let him do his thing."
Yeah.
I was pointing directly at the vortex on Skinwalker Ranch, directly at it.
Wow.
And the second thing I felt was this tree off to my left. So I walked down, and this tree was just, there was so much more about it. I was so curious. So I got on both knees, and my plan was to just sit down and meditate and figure out why this tree was so different than any other tree I've ever seen or experienced or felt.
Okay.
So the second my knees hit the ground, I was in deep meditation immediately. That's never happened to me. Never. It always takes maybe 10, 20 minutes to really get into a deep
like a process. Like
style. I've never been
Yeah.
involved with anything military, and after what happened to me and the kids, I never will be involved with anything.
Good call.
Yeah, they really turned their backs on us. They had Black Hawk helicopters taking pictures of us. That's a gun camera, by the way, aimed at my children. Those things never leave the ground without live munitions, if you know anything. Black Hawk. So I had a live 50 millimeter aimed at my kids so they can take pictures of my family out in my driveway. I've got bigger helicopters just circling the property all day. In the beginning, I actually brewed coffee because I've watched movies before, right? I brewed coffee so the military can show up. We can get some answers,
Right. And they're going to set up a center in your house, and
but it's
studying this stuff.
Yeah. Instead, they put a lieutenant colonel in the nearest hotel to my apartment to stalk me and the children, take pictures, right? And happy accident. My neighbor Debbie works at that hotel, so she went into his room to. Change out the soaps and the sheets and all that stuff. And she's seeing developed pictures of me and the kids all over the bed. A ledger on the nightstand. Yeah, this is how we caught them. My first thought, because there was a ledger on the nightstand talking about everything that we did. And my first thought is creep, right? So she calls me back. She said his name is Lieutenant Colonel Dallas C. Wood. Whoops, I just said his name. So Bear, my lead investigator, he gets 5 people with the same name, gets their picture, and he said, "Debbie, whichever man this is, you pick him out by his face. So it's kind of like a police lineup, but digitally. And she picked out the lieutenant colonel from the Pentagon in foreign relations and foreign technology. So he got caught red-handed.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had his name, so we kind of dug around, see who he was messing with, and that's how we kind of stumbled onto the aviary group and the Aquarius and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I actually debuted my film. It's not completely out yet, but we debuted in Palm Springs, and a lot of hugs, a lot of high fives on the way out of the room. A constitutional lawyer stopped me at the door, and he said, "I'd like to talk to you." And that one of the first things that came out of his mouth, he said, "I don't know how much information you have in your personal case." He said, "But this movie alone is enough to sue the United States government." When fellow experiencers or psionics or whatever you want to call it get together, we don't have to wonder if this is the real thing or is this guy a fake. Right off the bat, we get into these deep conversations about what it's like, and finishing their sentences and all that stuff. So right off the bat, they knew. They got me on, Zoom with Alex, so I got to talk to the owner, and we had a nice long conversation. So I think, I don't work for anybody. That's something that I learned along the way. You can get stuck in one spot dealing with the human ego pecking order, or you can be a consultant everywhere you go and move as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So with Skywatcher, I'm a little concerned about the objects that are showing up not matching my clients all over the world.
How do you mean? Like which objects?
I've seen a list of objects that don't show up during experiencer episodes. So I'm curious about those particular ones,
Yeah.
Experiencers don't talk about Tic Tacs. They don't talk about certain objects. You won't hear it.
Manta ray. That's not what
Right.
There's a lot. Yeah.
I've worked with over 3,000 people worldwide. Nobody's brought up these objects. So I am curious about that. It might be an extension in this subject that I haven't came across yet and get into. So naturally, I'll want to, by the end of the summer, because they do fly to remote desert locations.
Yeah.
I just got back from Space Wolf for the second time, and 116 degrees, no shade.
I don't know how y'all did that.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's work, but yeah, I'm definitely curious and do have the opportunity to look into that with some really great people. I mean, I've heard some really paranoid people go after Skywatcher. I'm sure someone will try to infiltrate it if they haven't already.
I mean that's just part of the game, right? It seems like
that's
if you're gonna get in there.
Yeah,
there's gonna be detractors and there's gonna be bad actors.
Yeah, and that's just how it works. But as genuine as those people are, their intentions are correct. But there is a craft underground out there. It's sentient.
Wow.
It is picking up on consciousnesses because that's what it's designed to do. A cricket, a snake, a human being, a cellular phone, screen memories. A giant dino beaver walks by, and it
Lord.
How do you have a 5,000-pound beaver after the rain in the sand and not make any footprints? It was a screen memory. So this thing, I don't know if you want to know the backstory about what I saw.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, well, here's the part where I'm going to sound absolutely insane, and I'm very much aware how nuts it sounds. But this is the kind of thing I do. This is my life. So there was a lot of war on that property. And I think it came from, and you've heard of gifting sites, right? Where UFOs aren't crashing.
They're given to us.
Yeah, they're giving to us.
Yeah.
So these Indians worshipped it. It was a gift from the sky people. It was highly respected.
Okay.
And over time, I don't know if it was George Washington, because it was kind of blurry. It was really fast. But basically, our government took this property and says, now all 12 tribes from this area all has to live in this one spot. You have to get along too. Well, the other 11 tribes, because they were all getting kicked off their own property, so the other 11 tribes didn't get along with the 12th tribe.
Sure, yeah.
Property, and now they're invading,
Right.
So there's a lot of fighting, and a lot of the tribes wanted to take away the sky god's gift. So they started fighting over that. So all the shaman and the chiefs got together and had a meeting and decided they're going to bury it. No more fighting. We're going to have peace on this land. So they buried it very deep under the ground. And it's been down there ever since. It's awake, it's alive, it's sentient, and it's causing all kinds of antics.
So you think it's an actual, like a craft?
Yeah.
And it's down there on the ground.
Yeah. Yep.
And the craft itself, you think is living, or there's beings inside, or both?
There's no beings inside.
Okay.
It was just a craft that was delivered, dropped off,
Wow.
for future technology, and all that stuff. And there, there's gifting sites all over the place. Another thing that I noticed, this vortex is not stopping at a very particular point. It's all the way, it's going through our ionosphere, and there's substance coming in from space. So I presume that it's an X point. Now, if you've got like a little stream that you can look at of water, and you've got some rocks where the stream kind of rushes around a rock, it'll open up a little portal in the water, right?
Right.
Well, that's what X points are. I think they're classified by NASA, but I can talk about it. I don't sign NDA.
Wow.
A certain type of the sun's radiation intermingles with their ionosphere. And in certain areas, these X points open up. Now, NASA suspects that this is Einstein's Rosen bridge, that you've got these electromagnetic effects in the sun's radiation, and they're kind of swirling a hole in space-time, which, I mean, if you go back to Rosen and Einstein, you can see all the math, and they believe it's absolutely plausible and possible. But now we know that they open, but how do we mathematically calculate where they're going to open, so we can kind of send a probe in there to see if it goes anywhere, or if our machines just dissipate and fall apart. So that's going to be a pretty interesting in the future once we figure out, how this natural, thing works. It's postulated that the only way you can have another side to these wormholes is if you have sun radiation next to an ionosphere that's very similar to Earth. Otherwise, there wouldn't be another side to these wormholes.
Anytime, at least on the Skinwalker Ranch show, they talk about digging, it's like, don't dig.
They does not want you to do it. What you need to do is get 10 or 20 experiencers out there, have them meditate, calm their minds, and really connect to this thing, and then dig.
Figure out what's going
keep
on.
This thing busy, keep it thinking that it's connected to something. It won't do anything if it's connected. It's ready for your orders, your thoughts. It's ready for you. That's what it was built for. But without a pilot, you're not going to get near this thing.
We mentioned another property you're thinking about investigating.
We're going to Octagon Hall, and my lead investigator ran that place. It's a museum from a long time ago, and that's where he literally trains me in everything. So definitely second home for me, but it's also where I kind of was torn away from a regular life and kind of built to be who I am. The fact that it's probably one of the scariest places on earth to go doesn't bother me.
What makes it scary, do you think? Just the energy there?
The hall? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everything paranormal you could possibly imagine has happened on that property. It's about 300 acres. It was in the Revolutionary War. At least 3,000 people were slaughtered on the property.
Oh, boy.
At one point in time, the house was used as a hospital because the war was happening right outside. So they severed limbs, putting guts back into men's stomachs, hiding places in the wall where, people were hiding from their adversaries, and they'd end up dying inside the wall, and they'll find the skeleton later on.
Oh, God.
A lot of things went on that property. The natural electromagnetic fields are actually stronger than Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
I can that beyond any equivocation right now. I can feel it much more there. So it's not just Skinwalker Ranch, but there's other properties with this anomaly as well.
Do you have a goal there, or is it just trying to find as much data as you can? Are you going there trying to, I don't know, make it easier for people to cope with the energy around there? Or are you going on just kind of a learning quest?
I'm actually going to start film number 2. And I always want these films or any of my efforts not to be about me. It's about all of us, Right. I could have chased after Special Me a long time ago, and I don't like it. It just takes all kinds. But that's the best thing about truth, combined with time. In time,
right.
In time, the truth comes out. And I'm just sorry that it's the entertainment business for people that are using their entertainment mind to look into the subject. If you're, and this is very important, and it might make a lot more sense the more you think about it, but the people that use the entertainment mind to look at the subject only possess the entertainment mind to look into the subject. So it's going to be treated that particular way. Now, other minds that absolutely know this stuff is real don't use the entertainment mind to look at the subject. So it's two completely different camps that need to be kind of ironed out when it comes to this. You don't ever want to use your entertainment mind to look at reality, because that would be the most off-putting thing you could do, but when it comes to this subject, you have a large amount of people that are using the entertainment mind to view a very real subject, because that's the only capacity they possess. So, to quote my friend, bro, you're doing it wrong,
Until until it really hits you that there's something there. It's not entertainment. You're looking at it now, right? It's safe. Yeah. It's safe to watch X-Files, but then when I start considering maybe I'm getting taken up in a ship, it's not so good.
Well, entertainment-minded people that look into the subject require endorphins and more. They got to get the bigger story. They got to get the better story. They got to get the inside scoop. They got to get this. They got to get that. So that's the drive. It's a completely different drive when it comes from people that know this is all real. I feel and see this big hole in the world where it affects millions of people. It's not 100,000 people all over the world. It's millions. I mean, everywhere. So it's just, I've got to perfect what I do, and I've definitely got to teach it to people that are willing to learn.
Yeah, you're dealing with somebody probably in shock from time to time. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that? Like, what are some of the first things you tell them to kind of get them to calm down?
It depends on where they're at in the process. But one of the first things I do is I ask them a questionnaire, not off of a piece of paper. That makes people feel nervous. It feels too professional. It feels like you're in the principal's office, So I ask them questions that only another experiencer could ask them, and it makes a really deep impact. Like, oh my God, how did you know that?
Right.
So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of digging in deep. I'm catching them in places where they would never come forward to me with it. So I'm going to go ahead and tell them these little things that us experiencers notice, how we feel about certain things, all that stuff. So right off the bat, they start to break down and cry. Oh my God, I've been looking for a long time, and nobody knows this stuff, And so that kind of builds the bond and the trust. When an awful amount of trust in order to open up and talk with one another on a deep level. So I think starting the relationship off that way is the best way to do it. And it creates a bond and a friendship right off the bat, and it allows me to help a person easier, you know. And so like in modern psychology, you're dealing with someone that does not sit down and get to the problem right away. They're avoiding their problem, you know. That's why they're in therapy,
right?
What the therapist has to do is really kind of dig through the crap. And what I like to do is take the bow and arrow, get that crap out of the way immediately, and let's see where we're going here. And it depends.
Let's say you could go back and talk to 2013 Eric the day after your experience. What would you tell him?
That's a really, really tough question.
Yeah.
I'd probably say be stronger, take it all in, don't ever look back, embrace who you are. Don't be afraid of how strong you become. Don't be afraid of people that are afraid of you about how strong you become. And don't ever listen to anybody else's opinion about who you are. You know, you're the only person that takes a shower with yourself, and you're the only person that can prove that, you know. So just keep going, help as many people as possible. The very beginning of time, you know, the words were muttered, know thy enemy, you know. And so, you know, my lead investigator kind of gave me a list of people definitely to stay away from at all costs. And of course, you can just kind of see all the people branch out for them and who they're involved in and stuff like that. Twitter, I just look at it as a lot of those people should be on meds, and they're not. You know? I mean, you know, a lot of people are like, this guy must be counterintelligence. I was like,
right.
It doesn't have the proper IQ, right? No, and I think this is the first show I've mentioned it on, but Heidi and I are building a social network from the ground up.
Hell yeah. No, I have not heard of this. We didn't even talk about this.
Yeah, we're just in the beginning stages.
Okay.
But instead of having like groups of 500 experiencers in different places and trying to work with all of them, I think we'll put tens of thousands of people all in one spot. Of course, I've got a lot of counselors that are experiencers.
That's fantastic, man.
Professional psychiatrists that are experiencers, people that do hypnoregression, Dr. Stephen Colburn will, you know, cover all the implant information and stuff like that. We can run conferences every month, put out loads of information because, you know, experiencers are like, we research a little more than the average person because our lives are involved, you know.
You want answers.
Yeah.
You know? I get it.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to go for the world's largest support group in the history of mankind when it comes to who we are, and see if I can get some sleep at night and try to help each other.
You know, kind of in 10 years, where do you see yourself? You think that's a big part of it?
If I'm alive, I'll probably...
you'll be around.
Just beat colon cancer, my friend. That's why I got loose skin, looking all skinny and stuff.
Hey, good for you, buddy.
But yeah, I have a lot of high hopes with that. But within the next 10 years, I plan on making a slow transition from America to Indonesia. Try that out for a while. I may not be gone forever. I mean, America's my home. I love my country, even though my country turned their back on myself, my family. And
I think a lot of us, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, God, all of us. And this particular, you know, genre, every damn one of us. I mean,
even, you know, whether you supported the current folks in power or not, like both sides are feeling really let down right now. It's wild.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've literally been on the phone with, you know, a professor more than once, where the DOD walks into a Harvard classroom or another university, and they say, everything you're working on right now, we're commandeering. Everybody gets an NDA. If you violate your NDA, you go directly to prison. You do not get a judge, a jury, none of that. So everything that you're working on belongs to the United States government. and they commandeer what these children are working on, these brilliant children. So the DoD gets all the technology first. They pick to steal from people, and then we get the leftovers.
Flyer in the mail from the UCLA School of Engineering on about February time frame of 1993, and in it had that Ben Rich would be speaking on the UCLA campus. But when he finished his talk, there was a slide of a black disc zipping off into outer space, and he ended the talk with these words: "We now have the technology to take ET home." About 25 of us ran up to see Ben, right? Polite questions at first, but then finally some lady said, "Tell us about this technology that goes to the stars." But he said, "Let me ask you something." He says, "Do you think it's possible to travel to the stars?" And the engineer took like 3 steps back, like, "Why are you asking me this question?" And he said, "Well, yeah, it'd just take a long time to get there." Ben Rich said, "No, it won't. There's an error in the equations." And we figured out what it was, and we now know how to do it. But then he abruptly looks at his watch and says, "I've got to go." And he starts walking out of the thing. And I start following him out to his car. And I said, Mr. Rich. And he turns around and looks at me like, "Who are you?" And I said, "Hi, I'm Jan Harzan." I said, I'm an alumni. I really appreciate your talk. You did a great job. I said, "You said some very interesting things." I said, "I've always had a fascination with propulsion systems." I said, "Can you tell me anything about how this propulsion system works that goes to the stars?" He said, "Well, let me ask you a question. How does ESP work?" Well, the first thing that came into my mind, I said, "I don't know. All points in space and time are connected?" He said, "That's how it works."
They have the technology, but will they have the funding and this and that and blah, blah, blah. They can pretty much do anything, and...
Well, you turned me on to InterNASA, right? Yeah. That became TTSA in this kind of weird morphological way because some of the people that were involved. And I was just starting to research that a little bit before our interview, kind of getting into that, how the gentleman that was kind of in charge was really getting a lot of shit because he had said he had experiences, right? Like he was an experiencer. Yeah. And so then they shifted it over kind of to Tom DeLonge and back to that whole storyline. And I didn't know any of that until I spoke with you about it.
Well, not many people know that at all.
Yeah.
That was because of my inside sources. And I was told about the 2017 October release, sold in 2016, that there were talks about that going down. So it was definitely a planned ordeal.
Wow.
They couldn't make Joseph Firmage popular, so they completely trashed his reputation. Yeah. Called CPS on him for abusing his elderly father, he loves his father. He would never do anything like that. Right. But that was a way to kind of scoop him to the side and scare the hell out of him too. Because he was not going to give up the secrets to his technologies to the CIA. He wants the world to have it. And he's sitting in prison right now, and he still wants the world to have it. So when he gets out, I'm going to make sure he's got a lot of help.
And,
there's some
I can help him anyway.
Yeah, there's some very brilliant scientists that are ready for him in almost any capacity to start his research back immediately. I don't know if you've looked into Stan Romanek.
No, not yet.
But that's what they did to him. Owl, a.k.a. Owl. His name is General John B. Alexander.
Oh, John Alexander. Okay, yeah.
Went to his house, saw the activity for himself. He started to implement a narrative to him. And he said, no, I'm not going with a narrative. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So immediately he was arrested for having...
You mentioned the demons, the demonic, the angelic thing. It seemed like as soon as it kind of fades out, boom, it comes right back up. Like Ross Coulthart just had a Catholic priest, and it was somebody else on talking about
There is a view among some people in the military, particularly in the US Air Force, apparently, a very strong evangelical position from evangelical Christians in the US Air Force that is very hostile to the idea of engaging with the subject of UAPs, not because it's not real, but because there's a genuine concern that it's demonic, that it's evil. Where do you stand on that?
I would probably modify that just a little bit. I think that
there is a movement in the UFO community that people are opening themselves to demonic suggestion. I know people are doing seances and things to bring these craft down or in or something like that. And to me, it reeks of a demonic suggestion.
I learned at the hall there are things like that going on, and I've done residentials where some of the scariest movies are not scary enough. See this kind of thing in real life. It's not my cup of tea. It's not something I do. It's not something I want to be involved in.
Yeah.
I was made aware and trained in those areas with the Vatican priest and the whole team. But yeah, some families do suffer from something along those lines. Now, counterintelligence wants to paint that as a whole, and they always want to do that. It's easy. It's edible. Story solved, so people latch onto that really easily, and they know it.
Easy to choose a side that way too.
Yeah. And most of these guys in counterintelligence are Rosa Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And so their belief system is highly in that. But if you break down the Rosa Christian theology, and if you break down the religion itself, it is literally about these special people that have special brains that are able to do things, and that's a part of their religion. And see, they're a part of the cover-up because they want to squander experiencers to utilize them in wartime situations.
Right.
And that's what it's been about this whole time. That's why experiencers don't even exist in ufology, because when they started studying experiencers back in the 50s, they realized we can use this for war.
Yeah, whatever.
The Russian
energy or power.
Mm-hmm. The Russians were using it. The Chinese use it. America used it. Adolf Hitler in Germany, they had it figured out a lot longer than America. Take these people, usually starting from school, gifted and talented. They'll pull you to the side, give you a psychic test. They're allowed to look at you 5th grade and further on. They cannot look at you below the age of 5th grade. The way your mind is growing, and children's brains are kind of malleable, so it's really important to catch them at a young age. And some are actually recruited later on in life to psionics program. Now they're using the word psionic. That was 1970s, 1972. Russia was using psionic, and I think that's where Skywatcher had gotten that word, buzzword. Still means the same thing as an experiencer. We're all
well, interesting thing about Skywatcher too is they said they were using the what was it, the whistle, the cow whistle or something, that they were using that for years before they had psionic folks out there, and they were still getting activity with just the dog whistle. So it's curious, like, is it different types of activity you're getting with different interactions?
That's what I want to find out in person. But conscious frequency is the two most important things when it comes to boots on the ground research. That is two of the major things to look at. And I said that in 2013, and all these ufologists were shouting, it's about consciousness. They had no idea what I was talking about. They had a new buzzword to throw in the mix because they knew it was popular, because they knew about my case before anybody else did. And that's that's kind of dirty, but that's the kind of one-upmanship you get when you're dealing with ufology. I mean, that's why I want it to be in academics. But these psionic places, like there's one in Chihuahua, Mexico, and the top level's got nice dormitory foliage outside, nice drinks, free lunch every day. It's a nice place to go train. Once you graduate, you go a level down, and then you get a little bit better at remote viewing and remote sensing and doing all these things. So gradually you ended up on the 3rd floor, the 2nd basement. And I've heard horror stories where these people are so good at what they do is that they get into meditation and they can reach the singularity, or
oh my God,
what some people call the Akashic records. And they take notes on you to find out which beer mixed with which wine, mixed with which pill could easily put your brain in that particular state. They want to use LSD or DMT or mushrooms, whatever your particular brain coheses to in order to reach that singularity state. That's the state they try to keep you in all the time. And worse, they have doctors to keep you alive when they utilize your body to do this. If you do survive, and I do hear most people die, but in some basically after that you're I hate to say the word auctioned off, but you know, there's Lockheed Martin, there's Raytheon, there are Arabian sultans, there's kings, there's presidents that need an advisor like that in their life. And so you kind of get shipped off to whoever you want to go work for after that.
Oh,
if you want to be an advisor to an oil sheik, you know, in Saudi Arabia, you know, go for it. He's hiring and he pays good, you know. So
do you think that's connected to this stuff? I don't know if you remember, Greer had on that whistleblower, Michael, can't remember his last name, Ramirez, maybe?
Herrera.
Herrera, yeah. Do you think that that's tied in with that? Because he thought it was drugs and then maybe found out it was children they were moving.
Yeah. That's.
You think that's all?
As soon as I saw him on TV, now I think, you know, I'd like to question him in person about a few things. I think you know, he kind of got thrown off and filled in the blanks with his own brain.
Right. Well, and he clearly had Greer and all those folks in his ear too. So yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, Greer knows about that facility. I know he does.
You know, because I picture, like, if Herrera's story is legit, I doubt those soldiers that stopped them would have any idea that they were involved. You know, that's probably where they were kept in a bin with no windows, right? Like, but hopefully just that story getting out will ruin someone's day in that field there. You know what I mean? Because it's just so terrible.
Yeah, you know, the worst part is that experiencers are neurologically based and emotionally based on empathy, and take the most empathic people in the world and torture them for their spiritual abilities to gain that against an enemy, you know. It just.
And what are they doing with it? What do you think? I mean, they're just relying on folks, and that's pretty much it.
Well, if you look at human history, the light bulb was invented in the same day with the same design, the two people that didn't even know each other. The jet engine, same design, everything down to a bolt, to the rivet, to the fuel, everything was invented 2 different countries on the same day. So it's like, you know, it's really the only way to kind of push the world forward is to obtain people that can just literally download the jet engine or the next you know, SR-71 or So since us experiencers are in the way of ourselves and trying to live normal lives because we're not socially acceptable, it's almost a seemingly good idea to go where you belong, you know. And it's wrong thinking to say that, but sometimes you just want to give up and go where you belong. But
also very human, though.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, where we belong is in society, doing the best of our abilities for the better good, you know, and not turn yourself over to the war machine, you know. If you want to make a big impact being an experiencer, do it as a civilian, to your family, for your family, your neighbors, your friends. The internet's here, planes are here, the telephone's here. You can make a huge impact one life at a time, you know.
Absolutely, one conversation at a time. Like somebody could watch this conversation and get something out of it that hopefully will help them, on their journey. So, thank you so much, Eric. What's your take on Pasolka before I let you get out of here?
I don't know her personally. I have her on screen and taken a look at a few things. I think she's a brilliant woman. I think she was exposed to some real things that would require an awful lot of ontological shock. And I think, as far as the hornet's nest of disinfo agent, she might have been involved in that and not aware of it in the beginning, but now wise about it now. I'd love to reach out to her when she's not so busy.
That's the part of it, is like, just admit something. Give these folks some type of acknowledgement instead of they're kooks or what's the other one? Sleep paralysis or knock it off. Like, y'all know something's there. Stop it. Like, just give these people some solace, so they can feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. There's something to this.
Yeah, it's abusive, man. It really is.
It really is. Yeah, it's like gaslighting for the government.
It is. Yeah, but eventually it'll be over, and if I can spend my lifetime contributing to that, it's a life worth lived,
Thank God for you, man. I'm so glad you're out there. And dude, just coming on the show, it says a lot. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me on, man.